அழன்மெழுகாய் அகத்துணை நினைந்து நைந்துருவும் அன்பிலி எனக்குன் அன்பினை அருளாது ஆண்டனை அழித்திடல் அழவோ அன்பினில் விளையும் இன்பமே அன்பு அகத்தினில் ஊருமாறமுதே என் புகழிடனின் இட்டமென் இட்டம் என்பதற்கென்னுயிரிழையே.
During the celebrations of Bhagavan's Jayanti this year, I spoke about verse 1 of Arunachal Patikam, and now I'm going to talk about verse 2. There is a continuity between these verses. Firstly, there's a poetic continuity in that this Patikam and Ashtakam are what are called Antadi. That is, the last word of one verse becomes the first word of the next verse. So the previous verse ended Ambe, which is a vocative form of Ambu, and this verse begins with Ambu, which means love. That's the poetic continuity, but there's also a continuity in the ideas. In the previous verse, the principal prayer was for Arunachala to show his Kakshi, Unkakshi. Kakshi, in this context, means more or less the same as Darshanam. In this verse, there is a continuity because in order to see Arunachala as he actually is, we need all-consuming love. So long as we have even the least love or liking for anything other than our own real nature, which is the real nature of Arunachala, Arunachala will not show himself to us, because when he shows himself to us, that is the annihilation of ego. So in order to see him, we need to be willing to lose ourselves completely in him. So the key to seeing him is love. So what Bhagavan is praying for in this second verse is that love we need in order to see Arunachala as he actually is. So I'll briefly read the overall meaning of the verse, and then I'll go discuss it in more detail. He addresses Arunachala as Amburu Varunachala, Arunachala, the form of love. So the meaning is, Arunachala, the form of love, having taken charge, implying having taken charge of me, is it befitting to ruin me, not granting love of you to me, who do not have love in which one melts, softening like wax in fire, thinking of you in the heart, who happiness produced in love, O satiating ambrosia welling up in the heart of devotees, what to say? Your will is my will. That is happiness for me, Lord of my soul. So that's the overall meaning. To go through it more closely, firstly, he addresses Arunachala as Amburu Varunachala, Arunachala, the form of love. That is, Arunachala is Ambu Swarupam. It is the very nature of Arunachala is love. Ambe Shivam, it is in Tamil, it's often said, Ambe Shivam, love alone is Shiva. Love is God. So love is the real nature of God. God is infinite love. Because why is God's love infinite? Because God is our own real nature. As Bhagavan says in Nana, Yatharthamai Uludu Atmasarupam Andre. What actually exists is only Atmaswarupa. So nothing other than Atmaswarupa actually exists. Atmaswarupa means the real nature of ourselves. So we, as we actually are alone what actually exists. So we are Ekam Eva Advaitiyam, one only without a second. So, and what we actually are, that is Arunachala. That is what Bhagavan is addressing here as Arunachala. So Arunachala alone is what actually exists. So in the Arunachala and Bhagavan, of course, are one and the same. So in the view of Arunachala, there is nothing other than himself. So he sees us as, he doesn't see us as we see ourselves. We see ourselves as a person. He doesn't see us as a person. He sees us as we actually are. In other words, he sees us as himself. And because he sees us as himself, he loves us as himself. So Arunachala love is infinite because there's nothing other than him. So he has infinite love for himself, and whatever in our view is other than him or other than ourselves is in his view nothing other than himself. So he loves everything as himself. So his love is infinite. So he's the very form of love. This term amburu, this is a term that Bhagavan also uses in verse 101 of Aksharamlai. There he uses it in a very beautiful way. That is what he sings in verse 101 is Ambu Vilalipol, Amburu Vunilene, Ambai Karetaral Arunachala. That is, be gracious, melting me as love in you, the form of love, like ice in water. So here the Arunachala is the infinite ocean of love compared to the water of the ocean. Just like ice falling in the ocean will melt and dissolve in the ocean, the Bhagavan's prayer is, melt me as love in you, the form of love. What he's praying for in this verse is love. So he's praying to love for love, because Arunachala he's praying to Arunachala, who's the very we can't even say the embodiment of love. He's love itself. So Arunachala is love itself. So from where can we get the love that is required to turn within? Only from Arunachala, who is the source of all love. So he, as I say, he begins this verse addressing Arunachala as Amburu Varunacha, Arunachala, the form of love. And in the first sentence, he's indirectly praying for love. It's quite a long sentence, this first one. The main clause is the final clause, Enaku un ambine aroladu andu ene aritidal araho. Araho means, Arahu means beauty. Araho is an interrogative form of that, so it means, is it beauty? In other words, is it befitting? Does it befit you? It is the implication, but the meaning is it beauty or is it befitting? Aritadil means ruining or damaging. In other words, spoiling or that is, as Bhagavan prayed in the previous verse, if you don't give me sight of you, if you don't give me your Swarupa Darshanam, what will be my state if I leave this body? The only purpose of this life is to see ourselves as we actually are, which means seeing Arunachala as he actually is. If we don't, we are ruined. Unless we see ourselves as we actually are, we are living in a state of perpetual ruin. So is it befitting for Arunachala to allow us to remain in this state of ruin, is the implication. Is it befitting to ruin me? How is Arunachala ruining us? Ambine aroladu. Ambine aroladu means, arol is a word in Tamil that's both a noun and a verb. As a noun, it means grace. As a verb, it means being gracious or giving or granting. So ambine aroladu means, aroladu is a negative adverbial participle, so it means not granting love. So if Arunachala doesn't grant us love, we are ruined. So is it befitting to ruin me, not granting love? What love? He says, unambine. Unambu means your love, but it also means love of you or love for you. So not granting love of you enaku, to me. But there's one other word, important word he has here, andu. Andu means taking charge or having taken charge. The same word Bhagavan used at the beginning of the previous verse. He began the previous verse, you who took charge of me by grace. This word anda, well, the root verb is al. Anda is an adjectival participle of it. Andu is an adverbial participle of it. But this verb al is a verb Bhagavan uses constantly in Aksharamlaya and throughout Arunachala Stuti Panchakam. That is we can say it's the other side of a coin to surrender. It's our part is to surrender ourselves to him, to hand over charge of ourselves to him. His part is to take charge of us. So to the extent to which he takes charge of us, we surrender ourselves to him. And to the extent to which we surrender ourselves to him, he takes charge of us. There's no exact word in English for this verb al, but I generally translate it as take charge of, because it has it implies two sets of things. That is, it means that is all. It can mean to receive or accept as a prodigy, to take charge of, to rule, to reign over, to govern, to control, to manage, to maintain or cherish. So when I explain this word often, I explain it in this way. If a child is orphaned, some loving relative may take charge of that child. Take charge of the child means they take full responsibility for the child, to maintain and cherish the child, but also to bring up the child in a good manner. So they're taking control of the child, but taking control out of love. So this is what the verb al implies. It implies taking control of us, but also lovingly taking control of us. So I translate it as taking charge of us. So having taken charge, that Aradhana has taken charge of Bhagavan, is it befitting, having taken charge of him, not to grant him love, not to grant Bhagavan love for him, love for Arunachala? And that is the main idea in this first sentence. Because unless you give me the all-consuming love for you, I will not surrender myself to you, and you will not take me as your own. So it's your responsibility to give me that all-consuming love for you. That is the implication here. So in Tamil, the order of words are different, but if we go according to the English order of words, Arunachala, the form of love, having taken charge of me, is it befitting to ruin me, not granting love of you to me? That's as far as we've come. But there's another clause here. He describes himself as Arahan Meruhai Ahatu Unei Nenendu Uruhum Ambu Ili. Ili means one who is devoid of. So me, he's praying to Arunachala to give love to me, who am devoid of love. What type of love? He describes it beautifully. Aral means fire. Merahu means wax. So like wax in fire, that implies melting like wax in fire. Ahatu, in the heart. Une is you. Ninetu, thinking of you in the heart. Nendu means softening. And uruhu means melting, so softening and melting, like wax softens and melts in fire. Thinking of you, if we have the true love that is required to surrender ourselves completely to him, the mere thought of Arunachala should melt us. And he says, thinking of you, ahatu. Ahatu means in the heart. When Bhagavan talks about thinking in the heart, like, for example, in the first verse of Aksharamlai, Arunachala Mena, Ahame, Ahame has two meanings. It can mean I alone. It can also mean in the heart. Ahame, Nine Pava, Ahate Verarupai Arunachala. Those who think of you in the heart. When he talks about thinking in the heart, why does he always stress this in the heart? Because we can, of course, interpret these at different levels. At a superficial level, thinking in the heart is thinking with love of Arunachala within our heart. But a deeper meaning, in the heart, there is actually no thought. As Bhagavan says it, for example, in the first Mangalam verse of Uludunapadu, Ulla Porul, Ulla Lara, Ulla Te, Ulla Dal. Since the Satvastu, the existing reality, the existing substance, exists in the heart without thought. So if in the heart itself, if we go into the very depth of the heart, there's no room for thought there, because there's no room for ego there. That is only when we rise as ego does thought become possible. When we subside back into the heart, ego dissolves, and then there's no thought. So in the heart, there's no thought. So when Bhagavan talks about thinking of you in the heart, what does he mean by thinking of you? As he says in that first verse of Uludunaptu, the first Manglam verse of Uludunaptu, what is truly thinking of reality? It is Ullate, Ullapadi, Ullade, Ullal. That is, being in the heart as it is thinking. What he means by thinking is, that is the true thinking of Arunachal truly is turning within and merging back into him. Is not thinking of Arunachal as another. So long as we think of Arunachal as another, we are separate from Arunachal. But our aim is to lose ourselves in Arunachal. So we need to give up thinking of him as another. We need to, as Bhagavan expresses it in verse 8 of Upadesha Undya, Anya bhavatin avanahamahum ananya bhavame undi para anatinum utamum undi para. Anya bhava means thinking of Arunachal or thinking of God as something other than ourselves. Anya means other. Ananya means not other. So rather than Anya bhava, rather than thinking of God as something other than ourselves, that is thinking of him or meditating on him as not other, with the understanding, Avanaham means in which he is I. So with the understanding that Arunachal or God is I, thinking of meditating on him as not other than ourselves. In other words, meditating on ourselves alone, meditating on nothing other than ourselves, that is anatinum utamum. So what Bhagavan implies here when he talks of thinking of you is turning our attention within and merging back within. That is the true thinking of him in the heart. So if the mere thought of Arunachal should turn if we have true love for Arunachal, Bhagavan says in a later verse of Arunachal Patikam, the mere thought of Arunachal, what Arunachal does when he makes us think of him, and then he stills the outward-going activity, the sheste, the mischievous activity of the mind. He stills it, draws the mind inwards to face itself, to face Arunachal, who's shining in the heart as eyes, the implication, and thereby makes it Achala like himself, makes it motionless like himself, and then he feeds upon us. So all these are implied here. If we have true love, the mere thought of Arunachal will turn our attention within, we'll merge back into the heart, and there we will melt like wax in fire. So the heart is compared here to fire. The heart means our own being, the fire of jnana, which is ever shining in our heart as our heart. That is the fire in which we must melt. So, but that requires all-consuming love. So that love is to be given by Arunachala. So Arunachala, the form of love, having taken charge of me is not there, but it's implied. Is it befitting to ruin me, or let me go to ruin, by not granting love of you to me, who do not have love, in which one melts, softening like wax in fire, thinking of you in the heart? Here Bhagavan refers to himself as Ambu Ili Enaku, to me, the one who is devoid of love. There's a parallel here with a verse, I think it's verse 60 in Akshamlai. Nesamil Enakun Ase Kartane Mosanchaya Darol Arunachala. Nesamil Enakun, to me who is devoid of love, Un Ase Kartane, you showed me love for you. You gave me a taste of what it is to have desire for you. Mosan Chayadaro, be gracious, not cheating me. That is Arunachala. We are ordinary worldly people. We were wandering around in the world just like anyone else. But Arunachala, by his grace, he sowed the seed of love for him in our heart. He gave us a little bit of desire for his state of pure being. Having given us this desire, he shouldn't cheat us. So very much the same sort of bhava is coming again and again in Aksharam, that is, Bhagavan is constantly emphasizing the need for us to have all-consuming love. He's constantly emphasizing the fact that that love which we require can come only from Arunachala. It cannot come from, it's not the nature of ego to have. The nature of ego is like to rise and go outwards. So the love to turn and subside back in the heart, that can come only from the heart, which is Arunachala. So these themes are coming again and again in so many ways. So, as I say, the meaning of this first sentence is, Arunachala, of a form of love, having taken charge of me, is it befitting to ruin me, not granting love of you to me, who do not have love in which one melts, softening like wax in fire, thinking of you in the heart. That's the first sentence. Then the second sentence is, there are two vocative clauses. The first one is, ambinil bileum imbame. That is, he's addressing Arunachala here. He's imbam means love. Means happiness. Imbame is a vocative. He's addressing Arunachala as happiness. What type of happiness is Arunachala? Ambinil bileum, the happiness produced in love, or the happiness. Bileum means what is produced or what is born, like a crop. It grows and it flourishes. And so just like a crop grows and flourishes in a field, true happiness grows and flourishes in love. So love is the source of happiness. Happiness is the cause of love, and love is the cause of happiness, because these two are inseparable. We all love whatever we believe will be conducive to our happiness. We love those things. Whatever will be detrimental to our happiness, we're averse to those things. So we like what will give us happiness. We dislike what will detract from our happiness. So happiness is the cause of love, and love is the cause of happiness. That is, only out of true love but true happiness can arise, because our own real nature is infinite happiness and infinite love. So he addresses Arunachala as the happiness that is born of love. So Arunachala is not only Amburu Swarupam, is not only the very nature of love, he's also the very nature of happiness. Bhagavan directly addresses Arunachala here as happiness. So the happiness we are all seeking, that is Arunachala, that is Bhagavan. The very name Ramana itself, it comes from a root which means happiness. Ramana means the giver of happiness. So what can we say? So that's one vocative clause in this sentence. The next vocative clause is Amba ahattinil urum a amudai. Amudam is a Tamil form of the Sanskrit word amrita, which means immortality. It also means ambrosia, the nectar of immortality. So he's addressing Arunachala as ambrosia, the nectar of immortality. And he describes it as amudai. Is a verb that means to become full, to pervade, to be satisfied, stay or endure. So the main meaning we can take here is satiating ambrosia. The ambrosia that will satiate us, that will satisfy all our desires. But it also means the infinite ambrosia, the ambrosia that will give us eternal immortality. Not any transient immortality, but eternal, everlasting immortality. The reason I say transient immortality is often the gods are said to be immortal. The gods in heaven are said to be immortal. But in that context, immortality means they will live for the whole of the yuga. They will not die before the end of the yuga, but they come to an end at the end of the yuga along with everything else. So that is a temporary immortality. Arunachala is that eternal immortality, the all-pervading, omnipresent, everlasting immortality, enduring immortality. So Osating ambrosia, he describes it as amba ahattinil urum, welling up in the heart of devotees. That is, when we turn our attention within and merge back within, what will well up in our heart, that is the nectar of immortality. So Arunachala is both the happiness that is born of love and the ambrosia that wells up in the heart of the devotees. The devotees here means those true devotees who give themselves wholly to him by turning within. This sentence is Ambinil vilayam imbame, O happiness produced in love. Amba ahattinil urum aramudai, O satiating ambrosia welling up in the heart of devotees. What to say? That is, he has, in the previous sentence, he says, does it befit you to leave me without, to not give me the love for you? but for which I'm pining. And here he says, if you don't give me this love, what am I to say? That is, you are the happiness born of love. You're the satiating ambrosia welling up in the heart of your devotees. But if you don't give me that love, how can I experience that happiness? How can I experience you welling up in my heart? If you don't give me the love, I'm not a true devotee. So what can I say? It's all up to you. So in order to qualify ourselves for that all-consuming love, but will enable us to turn within and surrender ourselves to him, what do we have to do? We have to surrender ourselves to him. We have to give up all our own likes and dislikes, give ourselves wholly to him. So in the next sentence, he sings, Ninittam enittam. Ittam is here a Tamil form of the Sanskrit word ishtam. Ishtam means will, wish, desire, or liking. So, ninishtam enishtam. Your ishtam is my ishtam. In other words, your will is my will. That the implication is, I don't want anything except what you want for me. Whatever you want, that is what I want. I don't want any will of my own. I want to give my will entirely to you. And then he says in the next sentence, Imbu adu eku. That is happiness for me. Imbu means happiness. Adu means that. Eku means for me. So ninishtam enishtam. Your will is my will. Imbaraku. That is happiness for me. That is whatever you will. If you want to put me in hell, fine. I'm happy to go to hell, because if that's your will that I should be in hell, I will be happy. There's no happier place for me than to be in hell. So that is whatever you wish, that is my wish. I have no wish of my own at all. So whatever you wish for me, that is happiness for me. Your wish is my wish. Your will is my will. So this is complete surrender. Why this is so important? Because ultimately, surrender can be complete only when we give ourselves completely to God. But in order to give ourselves completely to God, we first need to surrender our will to him. Because if we have a will of our own, if we have likes and dislikes of our own, how can we give ourselves to God? So an intrinsic part of surrender is surrendering our will. In fact, we begin by doing our best to surrender our will to God. But of course, it's the nature of ego to have a will of its own. So we cannot surrender our will completely to God without surrendering ourselves to God. So ultimately, surrender is complete only with self-surrender, when we give ourselves wholly to God. But in order to give ourselves wholly to God, we need to be willing to give our will entirely to God, to give up all our own likes, dislikes, desires, attachments, hopes, fears, and to have no will at all except his will. En iree. En means my, wir means life or soul, iree, O Lord, Lord of my soul or Lord of my life. That is your everything to me. You're the life of my life, the Lord of my soul. So whatever you will, that is my will, and that is happiness for me. So this is a verse of complete surrender. And without that complete surrender, how can we have that love, which is that all-consuming love? I mean, love and surrender are inseparable. We cannot have true love without surrendering ourselves, and we cannot surrender ourselves without having true love. Ultimately, love and surrender are one and the same thing. So words really can't express the beauty of these verses and the depth and richness of meaning of them. I mean, who am I to talk about these the wealth of meaning and love contained in these verses? To really experience the love that Bhagavan is talking about in these verses, we need to turn our attention within, and like wax in fire, we need to melt entirely in him, the source of all love. What more can we say? En puhulida, what to say, as he says so beautifully here, what to say. What can we say about Bhagavan's love? His love is infinite. Bhagavan and Arunachala are one. He has come into our life to give us his love. So we can experience his love to the extent to which we are willing to give ourselves to him. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Arunachala Ramanaya.